10 Tips to Overcome Stress. Stress is something that seems to easily rear its head in the modern working world. Wouldn't it be fantastic to deal with stress more effectively? Here we give you 10 simple tips to dealing with and overcoming stress in the workplace. We tend to think of stress as a phenomenon of the modern working environment, but it might surprise you to know that people have been studying stress for nearly a century. It was Walter Cannon way back in 1932 who introduced the fight or flight theory. The strange thing about stress is that we all experience it at different times, but we find it very hard to articulate exactly what it is. The most commonly accepted definition of stress comes from the late Richard S Lazarus, an eminent psychologist. In his book Psychological Stress and the Coping Process, published in 1966, he states that stress is a condition or feeling experienced when a person perceives that demands exceed the personal and social resources the individual is able to mobilize. In other words, we feel stressed when we are not in control of events. According to Dr. Carl Albrecht, there are 4 types of stress. He introduced this model in Stress and the Manager, Making It Work for You in 1979. Albrecht wrote that most of the chronic stress experienced by 20th century Americans comes from anxiety. Albrecht identified 4 types of stress. 1. Time stress. 2. Anticipatory stress. 3. Situational stress. 4. Encounter stress. 1. What is time stress? This is the anxiety caused by believing that you will run out of time. No doubt you will have been in situations where a deadline is looming. The very fact that time is running out raises your levels of anxiety or stress. This area of stress can be overcome by effective time management. Simple to-do lists are a good way to start. Far too often we try to store all our tasks in our heads. They get jumbled up and our brains almost feel like they will explode. Moreover, when everything is in our head, it is hard to determine what is important or what sequence things should be completed in. So, whilst a to-do list is very simple, it is also a fantastic way of getting everything out of our heads and onto paper where we can see them. Stephen Covey's Urgent or Important Matrix is an easy-to-use tool to help you prioritize your work. It allows you to dig where the diamonds are, but it also enables you to jettison some of the stuff that really is not important in your job or life. Time stress is also forced upon us as we have more and more tasks dropped on us by others. This monkey on the shoulder syndrome can best be countered by increasing your assertiveness. 2. What is anticipatory stress? This is an anxiety about forthcoming events. Many of us will have experienced the situation where we worry that something will go wrong before a task or event, or that a person won't like us, or that there are bound to be better candidates for a job. Time and time again, I have worked with people who have a long list of scenarios that they fear might happen. The reality is that most of these fears never come to pass, although some fears, if dwelt upon enough, do come about. If you are constantly thinking that you will drop your notes during your presentation, you will. This is the law of attraction, which is featured in the book The Secret. What you dwell upon is attracted into your life. So why not attract success into your life instead? There are some other tips to overcoming anticipatory stress. Contingency planning is a way of looking at the potential problems and developing a plan B. Just by having that contingency plan allows you to overcome stress by knowing that even if a problem occurs, you have an action plan, which means that you retain control of the situation. Meditation is a wonderful way to restore a level of calm to your mind and body. Finally, sometimes we just need to learn to cope with failure. Vincent Lombardi summed it up perfectly. It's not whether you get knocked down, but whether you get up. 3. What is situational stress? This type of stress, according to Albrecht, is when we actually have lost control of a situation. Redundancy, grief, and personal conflicts all tend to fall into this type of stress. We cannot always prevent a situation from happening, but what we can control is the way that we respond to the situation. If you recall Richard Lazarus' definition of stress, it is when we are not in control of a situation. By increasing our self-awareness helps us to understand our weaknesses and to be aware of the triggers that stress us out and how we can turn the situation from a position of weakness to a position of strength. We can also, on a practical level, learn how to manage conflict in the workplace. Often we feel that a situation is out of control when a colleague acts in an aggressive manner. This aggression, verging on bullying, is definitely a reason that some people feel stressed at work. Rather, like in time stress, learning to become more assertive and less passive will help regain control of a situation and this particular form of stress. 4. What is encounter stress? The 4th type of stress identified by Dr. Carl Albrecht is called encounter stress. As the name implies, this stress revolves around people. Sometimes our interaction with a particular person or group of people is stressful in itself. This may be because we don't like them. We often hear people saying that someone always puts them on edge. Alternatively, stress levels can be raised because the person that you are dealing with is unpredictable. A third reason for people increasing your stress is that the person is in distress themselves. Think of people in the health professions. They are dealing with people in pain, or maybe they have to give them bad news. Either way, the person being dealt with will be in some form of distress. If you go to a completely different arena, say call centers, you will also find customers calling in some form of distress. The final reason that people can raise stress levels is simply because you can get to a point of contact overload. The tips for overcoming this type of stress are similar to situational stress. Developing your emotional intelligence and self-awareness will be a key tactic. Extending that self-awareness to understanding how other people tick then becomes a powerful tool. Conclusion: stress is a huge issue in the workplace. It costs lost days and hits the bottom line. Whilst it is important for employers to try to reduce the levels of stress in the workplace, as Richard Lazarus argues, stress is about when we feel that events are out of our control. Based upon this, it is hard to see how employers can reduce stress by themselves. And anyway, how long are we willing to wait for our organization to change? What we can do, however, is take actions ourselves. By taking action, developing our skills, gaining greater degrees of self-awareness, we can begin to take control of the events in our lives for ourselves. Our 10 tips to overcoming stress are: 1. Start to-do lists. 2. Prioritize your work. 3. Increase your assertiveness skills. 4. Develop visualization techniques. 5. Work up contingency plans. 6. Practice meditation. 7. Learn to cope with failure. 8. Develop your ability to manage conflict. 9. Use Myers-Briggs to build better interpersonal relationships. 10. Increase your self-awareness and emotional intelligence. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share.